I think it's very easy for the media to try and manipulate people. I don't think that people believe everything they see in the media by any chance, but I think people need to be really aware of how we are manipulated by the media. And I'll just give one example. In the run-up to the war in Iraq, every time Iraq was mentioned, it's a long time ago, but you need to remember that the reason that we invaded Iraq was because it had weapons of mass destruction that could be used within 45 minutes that could strike British targets. And that was the reason for invading Iraq. It wasn't regime change, because it's illegal to invade a country with the purpose being regime change. So it was never that. It was about weapons of mass destruction. And although there was no evidence that there were any weapons of mass destruction, that was still the spin that was pushed. And the media, to help the government sort of really get that into people's heads, every time Iraq was mentioned, they had as footage weapons, pictures from Iraq from the 80s wheeled across the streets, any BBC footage, massive missiles on trucks wheeled across the screens, weapons that had been destroyed like a long time ago when the weapons inspectors were in there. And that's just one way that the media sort of tries to sort of seep into people's minds, and and it needs to be held to account, and ordinary people need to be aware that the media is doing that. And I think when you get involved in a mass movement, in a Stop the War campaign, you see straight away how the media is lying. If you become involved in an issue, you can see the lie straight away. But if you go in a demonstration and then you watch how it's reported by the media, it's always quite an eye-opener when they say there were hundreds of people there, and there was thousands of people there, or there were 10,000 people there and there were 100,000 people there. And yeah, that's a big eye-opener. The BBC are particularly funny because they often underquote the police figures. Like the police might say there were 50,000 people there, and the BBC says there were 10,000 people there, and you have to wonder whose agenda it is where the BBC makes up its own figures. So if you get involved in any sort of activity, you will quickly see how the media distorts what it is you're doing. Individuals can make a huge difference. I think people can resist what's happening individually, but I think that the best way for people to make a difference is to campaign with other people and get together with other people who feel the same way. There's all sorts of things that people can do. There are obviously the major demonstrations that people can join, not just join, but build and be a part of and get your friends to come and things like that. I think people can carry the anti-war arguments and the arguments against imperialism with the friends and in the workplaces. I think that the media can be challenged because the media has played a terrible role, an absolute terrible role in allowing these wars to happen. The media's role in the run-up to Iraq, where it failed to challenge all of the things that are now widely accepted were government lies, is something that it should be forever ashamed of. In America, the New York Times apologised, the Washington Post apologised for its failure to expose the lies before the war, but as yet we've had no apology from the British media about its pathetic kowtowing to government lies about what was going on. But I think that individuals can challenge the media by writing to them, by complaining at them, by complaining at the BBC, by demonstrating outside these places. I think that you can form anti-war groups. There might be an anti-war group where you live. If you look at the Stop the War Coalition website, that's got a list of groups near you that already meet, or you can set up your own anti-war group if there isn't one near you. As part of an anti-war group here, we have stalls on the street regularly, and we have petitions around lots of issues relating to the war on terror and the attacks on civil liberties. So we'll have petitions about Iraq, Afghanistan, the threat of war against Iran, which comes and goes, but is a real threat. We've had petitions to get Blair impeached as part of a wider impeachment campaign. And these are sent to RMP or government ministers and help keep the pressure on them. We lobby our MPs. You can hold elections at hustings time to force the candidates to have their position exposed, and by arguing with the candidates about what their position should be. We do lots of leafleting locally. We've raised money for Stop the War Coalition because it costs a lot of money unfortunately, to put on demonstrations. So we raise money to keep the campaign going and to produce publicity material. And just wear a badge. Do you know what I mean? Wear a badge saying "Bring the troops home." It starts a conversation with people. It sets a mood. So I think there's lots that everyone can do, and I think there's lots that everybody should be doing, because, you know, it's easy to get sort of bogged down in your day-to-day life and just think that you're busy and you can't deal with stuff. But we have to remember that, you know, billions of our pounds are being spent on blowing up other people in other countries, you know, whose lives are just being wasted, whose lives are being ruined. And it's our money that's doing it, it's our tax money that's doing it. And we've got a moral obligation to hold our government to account. And if we do hold our government to account, then we can make a massive difference, because I think the fact that our government's gone along with America has held back the anti-war movement in America, because people look to Britain and say, oh, Britain's a sensible country and they agree with what we're doing. So we have to hold our government to account, and really that's all we can do, is hold our government to account, but we must do it.